We're live. What's up, cyberspace cadets? It's IRATE Prostate here, and we're ready to rock and roll. We're going to be talking about. That's right, Godzilla. Check it out. Groove on it a little bit. That's right. From Louis Cult. They knew about it. All right. And in the studio with me today, I got. What's up, cyberspace cadets? I got your boy Pat. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. What's up? What's up?
And Big Fat Brian, as usual.
Godzilla.
That's right. It wouldn't be Thursday without hot takes. And of course, this is the anime week, and we're going to talk about a hot take. A release from Netflix, an original release. It's the first part of a four-part series that's going to be, I guess, a series of movies, because this thing ran right at about an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. And this is a kind of a reimagining to some degree. There was I don't know. Let's just do the damn thing and start talking about this here show, because it was something to talk about. I want to say, hey, everybody in the chat. Anyway, so who wants to start?
Well, why don't I start here?
Okay, Brian.
Godzilla. I wish
That's
the
gonna be
movie
stuck in my head.
I know, right?
That's a great song.
So let's see here. We have our lovely intro. Where monsters take over the world and a child escapes while his parents get blown up in a fire. Your classic Batman intro, if you will.
Yeah.
And then they end up in space, and they're getting ready to come back to Earth because there's no other choices.
Well, no, hold on. Let's back it up now. All right, because we got into space because the monsters were attacking us, and these two alien species come, and they try to save our asses. One is called the EXIF. EXIF. Just take the word exit and put a F where the T is. Right, yeah. And then this next one is the Japanese love to do this kind of shit. The Saludo, which probably means something. Yeah, it means something in Portuguese or something, I'm sure. But like the Yank words, and so there's the Saludo and the EXIF, and they're gonna rescue. I guess they thought they could take the monsters down, but they couldn't do that. So they just said, "All right, let's just take all the people on Earth and take them out to space, and we'll find a nice planet for everybody to live on."
Yeah, they showed up and they're like, "My bad, guys. Our plan didn't work.
We
Sorry, bro. Your planet's fucked. Let's go."
Well, that's like they had a good plan. It's just the plan just couldn't go online. With Mecha Godzilla.
Exactly,
Son
man.
of a bitch.
and they dropped that little pearl, for all the fans, because Mecha Godzilla is one of the integral characters in this whole Godzilla canon that's out there from the original movies from the Toho, group.
I get that they were doing a nod at the original canon, but what is it with these types of movies and large mechs? Why does it always have to have a mechanical creature to fight the biological one? I don't know why that's the go-to.
Go ahead, Pat.
Now I was about to say, it's I don't know. It's that is kind of baffling, but I guess it's because when it basically comes down to it, That's always been one of those things where they've always built this big giant robot to take care of these these huge monsters that be coming to to attack Earth and all that right there.
Yeah,
you've seen that trope, especially when I've been growing up. There's been Voltron, there's been a Transformers, there's been Power Rangers. Oh God.
Yeah. Can we officially call that the anime trope?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna stick my neck out here because I don't know for sure, but I think that the Mechagodzilla is the first of this whole trope that you're talking about.
Well, when did Ultraman come out?
Well, no. Well, way after that, man. All right, Godzilla, the original Godzilla movie came out in 1958.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was called Gojira. And Gojira, and then they re-released it in the United States. They dubbed it. They inserted scenes with a reporter played by Raymond Burr, who was known at the time as he became Ironsides, but before that he was I can't remember. Perry Mason. Thank you. That's why Pat's here, to remember shit that I burned out of my brain with marijuana and other drugs back in the day. But yes, he played Perry Mason and Ironsides, and so Raymond Burr, kind of guides everybody, through that first movie, and it was in black and white. And then the series kind of came after that because it did so well. What?
Wait. We've got somebody in the chat here that says Mechagodzilla made its first appearance in the 70s.
In the 70s?
Yeah. And again in the 90s.
And again in 77.
Joys of Sorrow. Thank you for that piece of information. So maybe it is a Japanese trope. Or anime trope.
Right. All right. So I thought Mechagodzilla was the late 60s, but you're probably right because I guess, all right, Joyce, are you going off the wiki? Because you can kind of help us, when my canon gets out of late. But so I believe the second thing that Godzilla went up against, and I think we're going to see this in this four-parter, is Mothra.
I think for sure going to see that.
Yeah, Mothra, I think, was the second movie, and then Rodan came, and then Rodan got its own movie, and so did Mothra. Both of those got their own movies, if I'm not mistaken, and so yeah, I know, dude. It's there was Godzilla, Mechagodzilla. He fought Ghidorah or Ghidorah, depending on how you.
Oh yeah, King Ghidorah.
Exactly, with the three heads and the wings and shit. As
a kid, I used to always call him King Ghidorah for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, well, no. I think there was a regular Ghidorah, and then there was like a super-sized version of it or some shit, and there was so it was King Ghidorah or whatever. I don't know. I couldn't say it right when I was a kid. So so all right, and then if I can remember, of course, Gamera. The flying turtle, everybody that became a favorite of a lot of people. One of the most loved of the creature series. Let's see, and then
and there was him and King Kong.
Yeah, and then King Kong. See,
that's right.
Yeah, and then there was Mecha King Kong. Remember that? They made a robot King Kong too, to fight King Kong when his movies came out. And then there was, of course, Godzuki at some point. Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. I remember that one. I saw that.
Godzuki was the best character.
Godzuki was great.
No regrets.
Stomp on that tail. I'm not talking about the cartoon. I'm not talking about the cartoon Godzuki.
Oh, I'm talking about the cartoon. I love the cartoon.
God, no. Dude, the original's even better, dude. It's awesome.
Not the cartoon. The one where he's like Scrappy Doo, basically.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Only dinosaur version.
I couldn't keep my attention, man, to be honest.
I was a kid when I watched it, to be fair. Hello?
Are we?
I said
I think
I'd rather. Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry. I said I'll be honest with you, and I would rather sit through the '60s and '70s stuff than look at the cartoon stuff. To be honest with what I saw in this thing, in part two, to be fair, okay, and I'll put this out there right now, comes out next Wednesday, and so maybe at some point this story will start making a lot more sense, but there's a lot of confusing shit that happened for me. What about you, Pat? Man, take us through your
All right.
experience.
Now I like this because like this to me, like this was a great build up, like how they basically did it right here, like how it all basically got started. Monsters came out of nowhere and started basically roaming the whole world, and well, as we tried to take them, they started kicking our ass. But it's like how they started out with all these other monsters first, then all of a sudden Godzilla came, and Godzilla just became like the ultimate apex predator. Basically, he was like the ultimate one who came out kicking ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then it's like when the FX and whatever that jacked up name is, Billa Saludo, whatever came out.
The Billa Saludos or shit.
Yeah, with their promise is like hey, y'all give us a place to stay, we'll help y'all with y'all Godzilla problem. And they had a plan, but the plan wouldn't come online. But by that time, Godzilla was already whooping ass. So it's like, oh, we got to get the hell up out of here. So they just basically gathered up as many people as they could. But this is where Sakaki, where the story is basically about him and this whole entire episode right here, where he's as a kid.
Right, because the movie opens with him watching his grandfather die.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What was that about, man? I didn't understand if the old people just wanted to go back to Earth and die on Earth, or was that a planet that they had stopped at? Because
that's
they said
that's what I was wondering too. Like, was that? I don't think that was Earth. I think that was actual planet that they was
because they said they had been 20 years. They've been in space for 20 years. Yeah, and I'm going, okay. See, there's the space math don't add up with a lot of this shit. Keep going though. You're doing a great job, Pat.
Oh yeah, but like you said, that did confuse me right there. Like I'm gonna get into like they've been in space for 20 years, but then when they did make that trip back to Earth, it's like 10,000 years had passed, like Earth-wise, and I'm like, hold on, they've been in space for 20 years, but then when they did this right here, it's like they talking about 10,000 years. I'm like, how does that go? Like I'm not big on science and astronomy and all this stuff right there. So that baffled me. But what I got from that part right there is like they were at another planet, and they were with these volunteers, to seeing if it was inhabitable. Now they said that they volunteered, but with Sakaki's thing, he saw it as basically like them just basically sending them down there, because it'd be like less mouths to feed or whatever should things go down. That's where his grandpa basically came in and said, like, no, they're not forcing us. We want to go out down there and see if this is. And he just basically told him, because like you youngsters, y'all used to live in this life right here, but us, I want to live on land, and I'll take that risk. So basically, that's what it was. They went down there, and I'm still confused to like, what the hell shot them down? Now that's something they never did explain right there. It's like they're like what? No. They're like descending, and all of a sudden, like this flash of light just comes out of nowhere and just destroys the whole thing. And I'm like, what shot them down?
Yeah, right. And they didn't even try to explain it. Go ahead, Brian. What do you think?
I was gonna say, wasn't that Godzilla's EMP shield? I'm pretty sure that's what. EMPs.
We don't know.
No, but see, I don't even think Godzilla was on that planet. I think I think what they were implying is that one of the races, we don't know which one, sabotaged it so they would die and they wouldn't have to feed them. So, because there was a definite reference to that. Pat was right. So, all right. So now. Shit. So they're going in. They're 11 and a half light years from Earth, and then they all of a sudden just say, "Hold on, why don't we just go back to Earth and try to like kick this Godzilla thing's ass?"
Right? Hey, you remember that place that we left because we couldn't do this one thing that we had lots of people and resources for, and and had a lot more time for and everything. Yeah, why don't we try it now that we're desperate?
And I'm like, what the fuck? Right? And then in their space math, they said, yeah, by the time, when we turn around and go back that 11.5 light years, it should be like a couple of thousand years. It said 22 years in in the subtitles. See, I read the subtitles, and there's some interesting differences sometimes. So the subtitle said 22 years, but the guy said 1,000 years. Right, and when they get there, they do the math and say, "Oh, 10,000 years have passed." So,
that's what confused me. It's like,
what the fuck?
Like with the whole, what the hell, right there. It's like, like y'all been out in space for 20 years, but it's like then you go back to Earth and 10,000 years have passed. I'm like, how does that go? If anybody knows that science right there, explain that to me.
Right, exactly.
I'm just baffled, man.
Because shouldn't it have taken 20 years to get back? If it took them 20 years to get to where they were, it should take them 20 years to get back. But then who am I, man? I don't, we need to call Elon Musk.
Yeah, maybe
he can explain this shit.
Somebody, because I'm like, soon as they said like, like estimated time of like 10,000 years, I'm like, how the hell did I give up?
And then they upped the ante. It was like, 10,000 years. No, 20,000 years.
It's like the Blair Witch Project, but except it's in space, right?
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, right, exactly. Go ahead.
I love how they get down to the planet, right? And they're like, oh, man, I don't think very much has changed. Weird. Like, come on. It's been 20,000 years, according to you guys. That's like what's the era that we just passed? The Holocene era, Halocene era.
Yeah,
that's literally the Halocene era. Like,
so right, there's a complete Jurassic like time movement here.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're saying. There's been a complete movement in era wise. So the Earth, right? So there's like, right. There's now that I'm thinking about what you said, it's like, holy shit, that it's been that long, and they're like saying, but the Earth hadn't changed that much, but then the lichens had grown and gotten to a point of where they had fossilized, and I didn't understand what the fuck he was saying there, because he was looking at what looked like 3 or 4 impatiens, the flower, and saying that the Earth still remembered them because flowers grew. And I'm like, okay.
Oh God, that quote.
That was so fucking retarded.
Oh, hold on. I think I wrote it down. One sec. The quote was. Oh man, I guess I didn't write it down. My bad. Yeah. Either way. It was like, yeah, the Earth remembers us because of the lichen, and even though we were gone, the buildings are now immortalized by the lichen. I don't know. I may be being harsh on this, but it's.
Well, I mean, it's almost like. I don't know. This is like becoming like a theme with some of this Netflix shit, and maybe we need to start like looking at other shit, because I think Netflix is gonna get a hard on, and like say, look, man, we might get some guys knocking on our doors with some like baseball bats or some shit, because I don't know. It just seems like a lot of this stuff is kind of, there's always an element that's like missing, right? See, Pat, we covered these 2 horror films a couple months back, where one was like on a shoestring budget, and it was done by like people that obviously loved what they were doing, and they didn't have any fancy cameras, and then there was, we compared it with this, we did a contrast and compare, and this other one looked great. and it was stylistic. It was filmed in fucking, I think, Iceland or somewhere beautiful, like that, and it had all the kind of crazy shit. And it was like the low budget one was the better film. And there's always something about this stuff that that it seems like they're throwing so much money at it. It's like, and these people are just raising their hands saying, "Where's my piece?" And then they're not putting any love into it. I think that's maybe what I'm trying to say is missing. It's just like there doesn't seem to be a lot of emotion or even love for Godzilla, which is, that kind of insults the fuck out of me, because that's kind of the whole reason they're doing this thing, right? Or else it should have been just, kaiju in space or some shit like that. No, I'm being serious, because it's like, why take the character Godzilla and do what they're trying to do with it without the respect or the attention to, like, giving it. I mean, because the three. What did you call it, Brian? The 3D filming.
The cell shading.
Right. And Pat, you had talked about using that in the past too, and it seemed like that they were okay at doing that in places, and then in other places it didn't work. So,
well, like, look at the dragons. They look like cheap 1990s figures you would see from Final Fantasy VII. It's really bad.
Yeah, and I looked at some of the sculptures. Pat, keep talking, man. It's like you were doing great describing what was going on here.
Yeah, no, I actually like the little dragon things up in here, like and plus, like, the little animation build. Well, yeah, like I was saying, like when they finally did come back to Earth, and and they basically like after Sakaki like gives them their plan about because after he got all like the information that he was being given from like a little boy of like how to defeat Godzilla, he had finally figured out like like where the weak point is with his what is it, electromagnetic shield, and like where it forms at. So
did they figure out the weak point? Because when they were that's plan number one. I have all three plans for
because it was like there was a gland, right, Pat?
They're like, there's a gland, there's an EMP gland, we just don't know where it is. Like, it's like
it's like they have figured it out. It's like when it like gathers energy right there, it's like then it's like that's where it like creates the shield or whatever, like when it's gathering energy. But when it does, I think when Godzilla does his attack, then like the shield goes down or whatever, and it gives them very little time to attack on that before it like throws back up the shield again. So they had basically like really figured that out. Like they started coordinating attacks, even though they were getting their ass whooped. From time to time, but it's like one would coordinate, then the others would hit it like that. But it wasn't until like what's old boy's name? They didn't know it at first until he had sacrificed himself by shooting at Godzilla, and then that's when when Godzilla turned around and did the whole attack on him. That's when they were able to figure out like, okay, we found that weak spot. Right. So if we can figure out some way to like contain them. And get him to like hit that shield or whatever, so we can start aiming at that spot right there. So throw his shield down, and that way he'll be vulnerable, and we can destroy him. That's where they figured out right there when he had sacrificed himself for like to figure all that out right there. So that's what they did. They go ahead.
Well, what I'm saying is that they didn't know. They like. When their original plan was run at him and figure it out, like that's.
Oh yeah,
that was it. Their original plan was horrible. Improvising,
because they were just basically going by what Sakaki was basically saying, and even though Sakaki was kind of like he did have a plan. A lot of his plans were basically like of a madman who was hell bent on vengeance because of what he'd seen growing up as a kid and all that right there, because that was Sakaki's biggest thing. He wanted to go back to Earth personally just so he could go fight Godzilla because because they've been put in the situation that he is right now. Right. So they were basically following a madman, but the madman kind of knew what he was doing. So that's what it basically was right there. So it's like when they got Godzilla, well, that Godzilla right there, like I don't want to get too far ahead of what I'm talking about, but yeah, when they got him, like, and they finally contained him with all those rocks right there, and they was able to get the shield down, and then finally take them out and all that right there. So yeah, so this is right there. They're all celebrating like, yeah, Godzilla is gone and now we can reclaim Earth. And then all of a sudden, boom. This is what I basically liked about this whole entire first episode. This thing right there. It's like it was a big gigantic. It took a long time, but it was a big gigantic. What's the word I'm looking for? It was a big ginormous build up to what this whole thing actually was. And I'm like, well, they call this part 1, but what is going to be the kicker about this whole entire episode right here? And that's what it was. All that time they thought they were fighting Godzilla, they wouldn't. I don't know what they were fighting. They were fighting like a baby Godzilla or whatever.
They were fighting Godzilla, right there, bro.
They were fighting a little teeny tiny version of Godzilla, but it's like all of a sudden while they sit right there hooting, hollering, and celebrating, like, yeah, we beat Godzilla. Who shows the fuck up out of fucking dormancy? Godzilla. And this Godzilla is like 10 times as bigger than what they were fighting.
Right.
And took like what? And took like whatever when they were trying to retreat and all that right there. Everybody, I think it was everybody except for Sakaki or whatever, who was like basically trapped in some debris or whatever. I'm like, his attack, I'm saying that old little electromagnetic attack right there took everybody who was flying away out, and then that tail whip, that was a killer one right there. Like this fool just like swished his tail and like created that big giant wave of explosion, and just like, I'm like, oh y'all gonna have a hell of a time beating this Godzilla right here. Y'all gonna need Mecha Godzilla if y'all ever get the thing online, which I think that's what's gonna happen in like future episodes right there. Like I'm thinking Mega Godzilla is gonna come into play.
Well, Mega Godzilla.
Well, I was on Twitter, and I'm not going to give a lot of stuff away, but I went to one of the pages of one of the main sculptors on this thing, and
wait,
the top.
So you're telling me somebody sculpted that fat tortoise-looking thing?
Yeah, the especially that whole Godzilla, right? That whole shape of Godzilla that primarily was through the movie. The one whose head I'm going to talk about later. All right, that was all a huge sculpture that had been, I guess, 3D rendered, through how they scan it, and then use that as the model, to render the movement through. But anyway, on top of that, at the header on his account is Mothra. Right, the new version of what Mothra is going to look like, but it's the life model of it, which I'd rather see that shit. To be honest with you, I would rather see all of this done with like people in suits, okay, just like the old, complete love letter to Inashiro Honda. The director of all those Godzilla movies, I'm not sure how to say his name, but as a kid, I studied his name and wrote it down, and I was, for some reason, I was obsessed with Godzilla. I swear, I'm totally geek for this shit. I am, and so the suit for Mothra looks so cool. And I'm like going, damn, man, if they did what they did with the model for this, what is this thing going to look like? So it's like, Pat, I see where you're saying that, the story is like that one character, the one that got killed, he's the only one that they really had fleshed out, right? And I actually had some kind I actually kind of liked the guy, and I couldn't figure out whether these Billis Saludos or whatever, or the Exifs, I can't tell if they're like asexual or if they're like, but there's definitely some kind of like sexual thing going on between he and the what was his name? Sakaki or something?
Sakaki.
Yeah. Did that seem like anything to you, man? I don't know. They just that race. Just I couldn't tell if they didn't have any junk or if they had both junk. You know what I'm saying? You know,
I don't know. Maybe it was just his appearance and the way that he talked right there, which made it kind of like.
Okay, or maybe they were gay. I don't know. See, that's the one thing I couldn't tell none of that
That's
shit.
what it is. It kind of looked and sounded, but it's like I really would do like looking at that part right there because I was too, you know, like in awe of the whole entire story and the animation of it.
Right.
Look, everyone
knows. It did make me kind of question. I'm like, all right, he's talking a little like, hey, you know.
Everyone knows the Exif are the master race of waifus that are they are elven in nature, but you know it doesn't matter whether or not they have a vagina or a feminine penis. It's always a waifu.
Well, all right, see, and that's exactly, man. The fucking elves from fucking okay, that's where Peter Jackson's version of what elves. Yep, that's exactly what they reminded me of.
They had elf ears, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, the ears. Well, they were covered up though by those little Hasidic Jewish looking. You know what I'm talking about? The little dangling things next to the hair.
Yeah, but they had a couple of shots where you could see their full ear, and it was an elf's ear.
I wasn't paying attention then.
Yeah. just like the I don't know how to pronounce it. The dugong or whatever, the other race of aliens, they look like orcs / werewolves.
Yeah, but I did see those part right there where it's like, you know, kind of question like the Bill of Salute of sexuality, and then there was the religious part of it.
Yeah, that weird religion, man. I think that's going to come into play with some of them. I think some of the humans are part of that religion, and some of them, you know, aren't, obviously. So,
cause I remember like one of the guys basically when they was having like that talk saying something like one of the reasons why they really like ran to space because one, they couldn't get Mechagodzilla online, and then two, you know, like the Bill of Saluto couldn't like indoctrinate, you know, like the Earthlings with their version of their religion and all that right there. So it kind of like led to like, okay, we have to escape. I
think the Exif were the ones trying to the Elvish race. Yeah, those are the Exif, and they were the ones trying.
Yeah, I probably got that mixed up right there. I have to go rewatch and make sure. But it was one of them. Like, but that's how it was. You know, one couldn't get Mechagodzilla online, the other one couldn't like, you know, like convince the other ones to follow their type of religion. So it all led to like, okay, we need to run to space and try to see if we can find something else. But oh yeah, and then that part about when they finally beat it, that version of Godzilla, and when they thought that was actually Godzilla they destroyed, then all of a sudden, you know, the real thing came up. Okay, that's been one thing that's always been like kind of a question ever since Godzilla existed. Like, you know, like is Godzilla a boy or a girl? Like, can Godzilla like, you know, produce eggs or whatever? I don't know how that goes, but there have been some like there have been some movies where basically like that happened right there, like where Godzilla will like have like eggs and like they will be born, that'd be like his offspring and shit like that. So it's like, I don't know, it's like, what can Godzilla like, is he a guy that can actually, you know, like produce eggs and shit like that? Can, kind of like how seahorses get pregnant and shit?
You know, if we're going based off the 2001 Ferris Bueller's Godzilla Day, then, you know, technically Godzilla's asexual. That was part of that movie. That's
always been a confusing thing for me. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, you know, like what was that Godzilla's baby that they killed, and all of a sudden Godzilla like, oh, y'all killed my child, I'm gonna beat y'all ass.
We got finer print saying Godzilla is a Fuda, but I don't know what a Fuda is.
All right, here's the deal. Godzilla, all right, the original Godzilla from the 50s was the product of nuclear bombs being set off in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, this was all about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Really, his creation had a lot to do with that, and the new, you know, and then of course after that, you know, there wasn't a lot about it. But that first movie was really a lot about the sleeping giant in Japan, right? That was awakened by the nuclear bombs. there was some heavy shit that, you know, in the subtext of it, that a lot of people, you know, kind of left out. But I think that, you know, that well, it's really complex, but that's where it came from, really. Okay, was it Easter Island? And all those bombs that we set off in the Pacific around that area and stuff. That's supposedly, and that's where Mothra was supposedly had come from too. Those areas where they had done a lot of nuclear testing, the United States. You know, so it's it's a little. It's kind of a downer in a way, but I mean, it's like it you know. And then after the while, the movies became more of a, you know, more of a light thing, as I think as the Japanese relationship with the United States, you know, as it got warmer, because you know, there was some tensions right after the war, just to say the least. But and I think that you know, as that, I think as both cultures like kind of embraced each other, you know, it became more about, you know, about having fun and stuff. I mean, because, you know, there was a point where I as a kid realized I was pulling for Godzilla, right? And I wasn't pulling for the, you know, for the people, or for you know, the beings that were sent to kill Godzilla. But,
I was pulling for Godzilla the entire time on this.
Yeah, when I remember when I was a kid, he scared me, man. The first couple of movies scared the hell out of me, and then after that, I started liking him. So anyway, I'm sorry I got a little depthy on that shit. I didn't mean to, you know. But that
was good.
Yeah. So all right, so they're stuck. They're on the planet, and they killed the monster, of course, and then the gigantic Godzilla, you know, comes up and says, "Okay, motherfuckers, what just happened?" And right, and that sets up for, you know, next week's, you know, movie. You know, when they drop it, we'll finally get to, you know, at least put a couple pieces of the puzzle together, because there's so many questions that we've got, you know. I'll say hello to Lotus Wolf out there, and
what up, Lotus Wolf?
And the finer print, of course.
Yep.
Goatman hasn't made it by yet, but he's
Race
remembered.
Jacobson.
Exactly, Race and Johnny Hellcat. DM me about something else.
Harukin.
Death Harukin.
Death Harukin.
Yes.
In the chat as well.
A fantastic person. They're all fantastic people.
They are all fantastic people.
I got the greatest subs on the planet. And that is not to
another
be
thing
disputed.
about another thing about like next the episode for like next week is like when Psycho wakes up, and then he has this like what is this female or whatever, you know what I'm saying, who looks like Ahsoka from Star Wars and all that right there. It's like, what is that gonna come into play? Like what like what people like humans who actually like never got to go out into space and all that right there have been like evolving or whatever. I wouldn't say evolving. It looked like they just basically went back to like the primitive stages of life. So I'm like, you know, like what kind of role are they gonna play?
We're gonna end up in a 100 syndrome. Is what you're telling me?
Yeah, because I see no buildings, no future, like no futuristic look or nothing there. Everything just looks like straight, like we went back to the caveman days.
Yeah, pretty much. They're kind of stuck there now. I mean, and it's going to be what?
Not just that, but the plants are sharp, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you? How are you supposed to walk through that jungle if you're gonna get cut in half by a leaf?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, you know, that's going to be all these challenges that they're going to have to face. It was funny you referred to the 100. That's you know, it's like no Lexa here, y'all. You're on your own. You know.
Yeah,
she was bad. So it's like, we could do a show on that character, man, or that whole series is pretty funny. Fun to have fun to watch. Anyway, so damn. So
I don't know. Maybe that girl will basically be able to show them like how, you know, like how they've been surviving all the time, especially like with Godzilla being there. Maybe she'll show them like how to, how to travel through like the forests and all that right there.
Yeah, Pat. What were they trying? What were they injecting into the Godzilla the one that the kaiju that went down? Because we couldn't. Brian and I were like, "What is that shit? What is that?" Because I couldn't figure out what it was.
What about
the darts that they were stabbing into its back electrical dorsal fin?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't say this shit with a straight face.
I do not know. I think they were just basically there to make sure that his shield didn't come back up or whatever. It was just they just basically shot him up in there to keep it down until they actually shot and destroyed it, because it's like the way they explained it, as soon as his shield went down, or even if you destroyed an organ, it just came, he just regenerated it back in a second. So I think that's what it basically was. They were just basically shot into his body to keep anything from regenerating, including his shield, until they basically shot him down.
Gotcha.
But how though? That's the part that I was confused on as well. Are they shooting EMPs into his body? Because at one point I think I heard something about that, but then what does EMP just counteracts his regenerative powers? There was not a whole lot of clarity on this subject.
See, Pat, here's one of the reasons that we wanted to get somebody that was familiar with with anime and stuff is because there's some questions about. I think there's some general things about anime that kind of, it's like the science. There's some shit that they just don't explain, and they expect you to just expect it to just roll along with it, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't need to know exactly how the chemistry works. Just know that it will, that kind of thing.
I mean, look, I'm not saying that's. Go ahead. I'm not saying that I need to have the chemistry or anything. I just I don't know how stabbing these darts into him kills him. That doesn't. It would be like someone shooting somebody with a Nerf gun and them dying from a heart attack with no real explanation.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it did. It probably explained, what they were trying to do right there. We just, I just can't think of it off the top of my head. Okay. I'm pretty sure it explained it up in there, and if it didn't, it needed to be. But it's I'm pretty sure, somebody asked that question to the producers of, all of them right there, and they'll say they'll explain it probably if they'll, because how some people are, they'll just draw something, they'll just put it out there, and they just expect you to accept it. But
right.
I'm pretty sure that question probably would come up, and they would answer it.
Right. That's
suspension of disbelief, if you will.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's what I was going at is how far does this go, and how typical is it with anime? That's the question. Because it's there's I don't want to have to go to Comic-Con to get some of these questions that I have answered. It's well, let's go to San Diego and spend $5,000, and maybe you'll meet somebody, but you'll exactly know exactly how this shit worked. Because that's anyway. That's just that sounded.
If that's the case, I'm still trying to figure out Fully Cooley.
See, that's something that Brian and I will know absolutely nothing about. You know what I'm saying?
When it comes to that anime right there, I'm just tell you, I watched that anime back in 2003 or whatever. I still don't know what that thing is about.
What's it called?
Fully Cooley. They call it. They go FLCL, but it's called Fully Cooley. But it's a good animation. They got an up-to-date version that's on Adult Swim right now. They got other versions of it, but the original, it's real good. It's but it's so freaking confusing that you have to be a bad motherfucker in order to figure that anime out right there. Because it sends your head in such a loop. They basically say it's all about growing up, but they put it in so many different things in the episodes that it's that hurts my head. But I'm digressing.
No, I kind of like want to hear more. Just like, that's why we have you on, man. We want to, know more about you and your experience with this stuff because I don't know, I'm completely blind in the dark with it. It's like I was never drawn to the genre. There's certain things like I told you, that I've seen that I enjoyed, like of course, Akira and Ghost in the Shell, shit like that. I think we had talked about Appleseed. Is that it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about it, but it's like that's another one that I like right there too. It's like I like the old school like anime better than I did like this up to date because it made better sense of what it is right there. It's like the up to date version was just basically like them trying to like get with modern times,
Right.
Yeah.
You're getting maybe a little too pretentious and being artsy fartsy and shit.
Yeah, like
some of it,
the 3D animation, the futuristic and all that right there, and I'm like, this ain't what I grew up on.
No shit. Yes, I hear you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm gonna be honest here, I am, when it comes to anime, I am the most normie perspective because before this I'd only probably seen 3 animes ever.
Right.
And they were like your most common, Princess Mononoke.
See, I've never seen that.
That one's good.
All right.
Not Ghost in the Shell, but something wind, something like some wind spirit movie. I don't know. It was a big deal in like the 90s. And then Vampire Hunter D. That's all I had seen.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I found that on YouTube, man. Man.
Oh really?
And
yeah, they got Vampire Hunter D. Then they got like a new version of it, which it's all right, but it's like it's not the original.
As good, yeah. But that was my experience with anime.
Well, Brian, would you recommend Vampire Hunter D?
Yeah, probably out of all the anime I've seen, yeah. I would say that it's better than a lot of it. But I haven't seen that much anime. I gotta say, though, with what we've seen, I am not convinced that anime is a good genre. Just as a whole.
I don't know. You gotta say it all. I
know.
It all depends on what your taste is. It's like I kind of like I told you. They got the action anime, they got the comedy anime. They got so many different versions of it. It all depends on like what your taste is.
Yeah, see, I would skip all the kiddie stuff, but I do like. I'd love One Punch Man because I haven't seen the whole thing, but every once in a while. When I've like in a certain mood, I'll put on just an episode of that shit and I'll fucking just love it, right? I don't know why, but I just dig that, I really love like sci-fi, horror. I'm really kind of married to those genres. Everything else I can live without. But I gotta have me some sci-fi, especially if it's really really good, man. Because I don't know, man. I am kind of a snob when it comes to some of the shit that But that's just me.
We have a recommendation of Ninja Scrolls. I have actually seen that.
Ninja Scroll.
Yeah, that is probably one of the better ones. I would love to do. If that's on Netflix, I would love to do that for our anime week. But
no, it's not on there. I've looked and I've not been able to find it.
Yeah.
But I've always been into like the action anime. The things like the Trigun, the Inuyashas, the Rurouni Kenshins, like especially like Samurai X. It's like after Samurai X and all that basically came out, and they basically called it Rurouni Kenshin. It kind of like really like watered it down when he basically went to like like he'll never kill again, and now it just went to basically like using like the dull blade to like whoop people's ass. Then it kind of like I said, it kind of got like watered down. It got a little comical and kind of. I still like it, but it kind of like it ruined it for me because Samurai X, he was just going through the slicing motherfuckers in half and shit. And then you got like Inuyasha with his whole entire thing.
Oh,
But
God,
Inuyasha is just like a huge plethora. It's like, it's like got action, you got the little comedy and all that right there. I still don't like the fact that Kagome got that motherfucking power over him and shit, but hey. She's the, reincarnation of Kikyo and all that right there.
Before we get, I do want to show everybody something that was one of my big problems with this version of Godzilla. Okay, and guys, you'll probably need to have the watch screen pulled up. Because there is some delay, but I'm going to pull up a still from the show, and I want to show everybody the side of Godzilla's head. Okay, and once it gets pulled up, then I'll start talking with everybody about it. But Brian and I had talked about it, and I said, when I immediately saw it, I said, "Oh shit." Because it looked like a dog's head to me, right? And here's all right, I'm going to show my proof, all right? I did I just took paint and I went over it, right? All right, I got that one, all right? And then also I've got this one, that's the first one I did, but I really thought that this one was more, arf arf.
That's a dog.
You see what I'm talking about?
Totally
just keep it up, all right? Because there you go.
It's like they took that right there. Like they took a dog's head image right there and just like, hey, for that shot.
yeah, that's totally.
But I'm glad everybody got a kick out of that because I sure as hell did, man.
I was extremely disappointed with the way that they did Godzilla in this movie. Like he doesn't have scales or anything, and he sort of looks like a giant dog rock with a fat body.
Yeah, there's that one shot where it looks like he's just sitting on the toilet taking a shit. And it's like, holy moly. Yeah, some of those,
got
man,
lazy with the animation,
dude. I mean,
really lazy.
It got like, yeah. And Race Jacobson asks, at what point does Godzilla get his ass eaten out by Ultraman? That's what he wants to know. And and only we'll find out in the next couple of episodes. But yeah, there's an Ultraman, and see, that's something I did watch. Some Ultraman back in the 80s. That was one of my guilty pleasures. So yeah, they're redoing Ultraman. I don't know if it's coming out as a series, as a series, or as just a one shot or a multi-shot movie thing. I don't know yet. But I'm kind of excited about that because I think that if put in the right hands, it'll be done with the proper amount of love that it's going to probably need.
Yeah, that right there, like how you said, if it's put in the right hands, yes, it can go very far. But you put it in somebody who doesn't know about the franchise or don't know what to do with this right there, it's going to be like the rest of these reboots. They're going to be like, oh, hell no.
It'll end up
you gotta
with
put
the
it in the right
Power
hand.
Ranger.
Exactly.
Yeah, I as a kid I used to watch Ultraman all the time. I loved that little cartoon at the very end of all of them that had like the little lesson.
Right.
Yeah. I would sit there and eat Otter Pops to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was me and my father. That was our kicking it time while we played Sega. After we played Sega, for sure.
Well, we got a couple of minutes. Do we want to try to pull one person in for a phone call? If we got time for that.
Yeah. Why don't we get
is anybody in there?
Meanwhile, I'm just gonna rant about
go for it
about the art when it came to the human avatars and how their heads were like really big compared to their bodies and it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It sort of looked like bobble dolls, short midget bobble dolls. And I thought that the main character's name was Haruro or whatever the fuck that. However you're supposed to say that.
Yeah.
And,
the one with the grandfather?
No. The guy that looks like Aiden Paladin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You'll have to point that out to me.
He's the chosen one, the only one that can kill Godzilla. You know?
I didn't think anyone looked like Aiden. So, anyway.
Are you talking about Sakaki or somebody else?
See, I thought the guy you're calling Sakaki was called Haro or Haru.
I think that was his first name. I'm calling him by his last name.
Yeah, okay.
What he's mainly known by.
That's the Japanese way, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm calling him Sakaki because that's what I'm used to calling him by. But his first name was something like that, like wrong or I don't know. That's why I've been saying Sakaki all this time because I don't know how to say his first name.
well, okay, so like in the movie they had plan number 1, which was run it Godzilla until you find a weak point, right? Then they had plan number 2, which was spread out and repeat plan number 1. That's literally in the movie they said that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. A bunch of people died and they didn't learn anything. Plan number 2, do it again. You know, like, at what point do you just say, hey, we got the whole planet. Why don't we try the other side? You know,
right?
But I don't know. What big as Godzilla is, it's like how long will it take before he make it over there?
I mean,
like I told you, compared to this one, which they need like 600 people to take this one down right here. It's going to take a whole lot of people, and I'm saying, where are they going to find these people to even go at Godzilla? That's why I'm wondering, like, are there people still on Earth that's going to be like joining them to end at this fight, or like I said, are they going to be able to get Mega Godzilla up and going and to go at him one-on-one? I'm still wondering how that's going to go, because it's going to take a whole lot of people to take down that Godzilla.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, we got JoJo, a.k.a. Jacob Navo, in the waiting room. You want to let him in for a minute or two?
Sure, I'll pull him in.
All right.
Jacob?
Yes?
Hey, man, you want to give us a quick impression on what you thought of the Godzilla?
It felt like Aliens meets it feels like the movie Aliens meets Attack on Titan.
Okay.
I can see some of that.
Oh, that ending. Where they all got beaten up.
How do you feel about plan number 3, which is use spider mechs to create an avalanche and trap Godzilla? How do you feel about that plan?
Godzilla would get out. I have a theory for the next one about Mechagodzilla.
Okay, what's your theory?
My thing is, turns out it's not. Well, they're gonna have to pilot it.
They're gonna have to pilot what, the Mechagodzilla?
Yeah, because it probably is. No one it has AI, but it probably died a long time ago.
Okay.
So they got to gut it and put a pilot seat in it.
And you know who that's gonna be?
The main character.
The chosen one.
The chosen one.
Yeah. He'll be up in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Trope number 2.
Well, that's if he doesn't go mad, because, like I said, he's still got that madman thing going on. He is hell bent on destroying Godzilla, and he's going crazy with it.
Here's my prediction then. Okay, Mechagodzilla will be the 3rd movie, and it will end in the guy dying in the Mechagodzilla suit, and then I think all these are going to lead up. I think what it's going to do is probably ape a couple of the old movies, and borrow some bits and pieces from them, and then finally at the end it will be, they'll come up, with an ending that fits the trope.
But that whole subplot with the alien thing that was helping him, what was his plan to do anything, or its plan?
Well, based off the mischievous thing that it said at the very end, that Godzilla is the god of death, then I'm assuming he's essentially just showing humankind the power of his gods.
I think, yeah, I think there's some kind of cultish thing going on there with that religion, and you know, it's like I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out, because that was an interesting twist at the end. I'm like going, there might be some, you know, that character may actually be interesting. Anyway, we're at the top of the hour, people, if you can believe it. JoJo, we're gonna say goodbye. You got anything else before we say goodbye?
Yes, about that Ultraman thing, it's going to be a series, not a set of movies.
Killer. All right.
But he's not going to be giant size. He's going to be like Iron Man.
Killer. Well, thanks, man. All right.
You're welcome.
All right.
Dang. Yeah. Thug life, JoJo.
That's right.
Okay.
And, well, Pat, you're our guest, so we'll let you wrap up, give it your opinion, and then a grade, as we always do.
Well, my opinion is like for this right here, especially like for the modern version of it, like, you know, coming up with this times, I give them props up for that. They built it up really good, this episode right here. That, you know, like you know, I didn't know how it was gonna go, especially like after they destroyed that one Godzilla, then all of a sudden like the real Godzilla popped up right there, and I'm like, that's I like that. That's beautiful right there. It had a good story to it of how everything all started on right there. It wasn't jumbled up. They wasn't throwing everything at you all at once. Now they spacing it out, and that's what I like right there. You know, like, oh, it's gonna be another episode, so we're gonna bring the rest of it to you like this. No, this is just a build up. So it's a good build up right there. So I give that a good 8 out of 10 right there for like story wise. Now anime wise, I liked it. I liked how they had it right there. Now I was know Big Fat Brown was talking about like the heads and all that right there, how the heads was big on the bodies.
Yeah.
And then you just brought up like the baby Godzilla with the little dog head right there, the lazy animations, like
yeah.
But throughout it all, I like the 3D animation that they had right there, man. The graphics were good, and the story was good. So when it come down to it, the story I'll give an 8 out of 10. The animation I'll give that a 9. I liked this episode right here. It was a good build up, and I can't wait till the second one comes out to see how they're gonna continue the story right here. So it's got me intrigued, man.
Okay. Well, thanks, man. Brian?
You know, I think that this is probably one of my least favorite animes.
Okay.
I know. It's it was not. I couldn't, you know, I could get on board Castlevania. I could get on board Berserk. This just didn't do it for me. While it did have a nice twist ending that is a good cliffhanger if you know you're going to make multiple parts in a series, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But the storyline was not great. It had a couple of plot holes, you know, with the electrical darts that take out the EMP fin. Like, I can't take that. That's just terrible. Like, it's not good. So I don't know. I thought that they could have done, like, the writing was awful. Even the character interactions, you know, you've got the main character who's supposed to be the Chad chosen one, but he's an angsty teenager that, you know, is worried about his girlfriend the whole time. Like, why you can't do both. I'm sorry. He can't be a Chad against you know, Gordita Chalupa Godzilla champion there. With his electric fin, and also be a whiny little bitch.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm giving this one, because the animation was just okay. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. All right. As a individual film, okay, as just a standalone, it doesn't work. There's problems with it. There's some confusion, man. I was confused from the thing. Some of the animation I thought was good. Actually, I thought some of the shots, especially the spaceship, looked really good, man. And so I'm kind of with Pat on that. The story, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna suspend my complete opinion on this thing until all 4 chapters are out. But given, is like, the way that they do this stuff, see, Berserk, each one of those could stand alone on its own, right? Whereas this one, with that ending, is kind of weak, all right? But it's also, I guess that's arguable, but I'm going to stand by that one. I think that it's going to need the other episodes to back up, because I think there's a lot of unconnected dots here that's just left, just way too I don't know, too confusing for me. So with that in hand, I'm going to say for the look, I thought it looked good. I'm going to give it at least a 7.5, 8. Okay. The rest of it, the doggy thing, man. You know what? I got to take that in just 7.5 because the dog thing just it didn't piss me off, but it was like, oh come on, really? Are y'all that lazy?
Yeah, that was
man?
lazy.
That was lazy as hell. With that and plot, etc., I'm going to give that a 5.5, something like that. But I'm going to wait. All right, and I've got hope. I'm a hopeful person, so yeah. I'm going to be like that.
Could get better.
Exactly. So, and I'll probably I'll definitely give the next one at least 45 minutes to grab me, and if it doesn't, I'm done. But with that, I guess it's time to say goodbye.
No. We don't want to forget, like we do every episode.
Oh, next week's.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we forgot to do it for this week, man. But first of all, I do want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging with us. And this is a fun weekly thing. It's staying fun, for me at least. I don't know about you, Brian, but this is
it's fun. I have fun doing this.
All right, because it's like one of these days, All right, so what's next week? What did we decide?
I believe we decided to do Pandora.
Pandora, that's right. Okay,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's film from 2009, but they just put it back on Netflix.
Right.
And it is a sci-fi horror film that takes place in space.
Yeah, and all right, if you liked Event Horizon, this is going to be down your alley.
Yes,
pretty much, because it's got a lot of love, like what we've been talking about. It's got a lot of that love that we've been talking about to it. So, but on that note, I guess I'm going to say it's time to head out, guys. Got any last words before we? You know what I'm going to do.
What?
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Godzilla. Oh yeah. It's a good song.
Take care, everybody. And we'll see you at the same bat time, same bat channel next week.
Bug life, dab on the hands.
That's the dab on the hands.